Hey guys, how's it going? And thanks for coming. I'm Nick, and this is Real Life Money, where we talk about real life and money because you know schools aren't. Don't forget to subscribe, so let's get started. So in this video, guys, I'm going into a deep analysis of a single stock. No, basically all creators out there on YouTube in finance have those 3 stocks for the next month, and I have that as well. Now, some people kind of just want stock ideas to get their brains going and see what they want to look into, and others want some deep stock analysis. So I'll try to give both. I think my 3 stocks I'm going to be just focusing on, like, kind of just putting some out there. And this deep analysis, we're going in. Last night I did like a solid 2 hours of research. I learned a lot about it. So this company is Abbvie. A lot of people have been talking about it for multiple different reasons, and we're going into all of them. But you can see this is around an $80 stock price. You can see their PE. They have a nice dividend. Analyst expectations are higher than it is now, and their year-to-date chart is down compared to every other time previous of this year. Alright guys, so let's just dive right into it. We're talking about Abbvie. So what they are a drug manufacturer. One of their most popular drugs is Humira. You might have heard of it. I hear about their commercials all over the place, but they're actually the top selling drug right now. So that's why it has been high flying, because its sales and revenue has been crazy. So we could see that their revenue from Humira is actually 65% of their revenue. So this does make it a little bit more risky because most of their eggs are in one basket. Now this could be a good or bad thing. If you have all your stuff in one basket, if the basket doesn't do so hot, you don't do so hot. However, if the basket does very well, then you do very well. You could kind of relate that to Apple with their iPhones. A huge segment of their revenue does come from iPhones, and some people see that as a risk. However, it's iPhones, so like it's still strong and popular, so that's why it's not as much of a risk as some may assume. Similar to Abbvie with their Humira drug. And by the way, in the drug business, it takes a long time for an actual drug to come to market. I might have heard like it takes 5 years or something. You know, there's a lot of course, like research, testing and all that stuff to find out side effects. So it takes a while for something new to come to market. So that's actually good for Abbvie. Since Humira is one of the top, or the top drug out there, they're going to be at that spot for a while. And it's not going to have too much competition in the short term. There is something to go along with that. We're getting into that later on. Okay, a little history of Abbvie is they are actually a spin-off of another company. You can see here of Abbott Laboratories. They were actually spin-off from this company back in 2013. More into their dividend history, they're actually a dividend aristocrat. They've been a dividend aristocrat, by the way, means that they've been paying consistent dividends for over 25 years. For Abbvie, they have been paying it for 45 years. And you can see their payout ratio is over 50. Their dividend yield is, currently around 4.7%. So it's actually strong dividend stock, which is what interests me and other investors even more, because it has that dividend, but also some growth behind it. And what that dividend payout ratio means, by the way, it's around 50%, like just under. So that means whatever earnings they get, 50% of it goes back out toward dividends. So you don't want that level too high, because if they start losing money, then they can't pay out that dividend. So this is actually fairly safe for these levels right now. So if we're going to be investing into a drug manufacturer and their top drug is Humira, we got to know what the heck Humira is. So a little bit of research into that. Humira is an immunosuppressant drug, suppressive drug. I actually said that right. Imagine that. So it actually treats arthritis. I remember seeing a lot of commercials are always saying rheumatoid arthritis, psoriasis, Crohn's disease. So a lot of this stuff could relate to joint pain and inflammation. It's kind of a messed up idea that the body kind of attacks itself, like it attacks the joints. So it doesn't necessarily cure it, but it does help tremendously, and we're going to have other trials, or I'll give you ideas of the trials currently of how well it actually helps. All right, so this, like we said before, this is the top selling drug, and it is predicted to be that way until around 2023, 2024. I'm going to be reading this off my iPad, so excuse my eyes. But in 2017, they had a revenue from the Humira of $18.4 billion, and it is expected to increase in the coming years until 2020. Now to around 21 billion, and that actually increased 10% year over year. You could see here, and we're going into that in a little bit. But their other second highest drug is Abbvie. I'm saying that wrong, but that increased tremendously, 35% year over year. So they could definitely start to see competition into the future, and that's what makes the stock risky as well, especially if that's their main their main drug. If more people are going into that drug, that's definitely going to affect their business. And I just realized my mic was hanging off for like the half of the video. Hopefully that wasn't bad. So I fixed it. Hopefully it's a little better, guys. Now they do have other drugs in their pipeline, like we saw before with that Abbvie. But it is actually cancer treatment, and we saw before, like, it grew very nicely year over year, 35%. Obviously, it's not as big as Humira, which accounts for 65% of the revenue, but that could definitely help the business and help drive future growth. Okay, so what is happening now? We see in the chart that it's down from its all-time highs of over $100. Now it's, like, flirting with an $80 level, which is a significant drop. So why? Well, the most recent thing that's going on is an actual lawsuit. So this call to action lawsuit was involving both companies of AbbVie and its parent company, Abbott, whatever. But they have been getting hit with a $25 million fine because they have there were kickbacks to doctors in exchange for them prescribing and promoting for unapproved purposes. So that's pretty screwed up. I mean, I'm assuming they do this with other drugs as well. Unfortunately, you could think of conspiracy theories if you want. But they are getting hit with that $25 million. So that's why it's definitely not an attractive stock for right now. That's why it's down. But if you think about it, I mean, it is a lot of money, but when you're talking about in the billions, like tens of billions, looking at their revenue, 25 million isn't like it's a hit, but like it's not like going to destroy anything. So I've mentioned before about recent trials, so we're going to be talking about that. There was a recent trial. This article was released last week, but we can see Abbvie said that after 14 weeks of treatment, 69% of patients receiving a 30 milligram dose of the drug and 65% of patients receiving 15 milligrams improved in physical function. That compared with improvements reported in 45% of patients receiving that. I believe that is like over the counter. So that did better than just like a normal whatever brand. It says 75% of patients receiving the 30 milligram and 64 with the lower doses had less pain. So those are good numbers. That majority of these patients in this trial actually have less pain due to Humira. So that's kind of showing that it is working. So now the main thing that I'm looking out for, guys, is their earnings coming out next week. It is on Friday, November 2nd. So obviously that could make, we'll have to see with that one. But we will have, like, later in the chart, we saw that right now it's around 80. It was kind of hovering around in the $90 level, and earlier this year it was over $100. So just to have some ideas of returns, if it does rebound back to the 90 level, that's around like a 12% return. And if it goes back up to 100, that's like a 25% return. So I wanted to put in some really important information in this next article. I just thought it was really obvious, but good thing we have this guy right. And the stock may move higher if these key levels to top expectations in the upcoming earnings report, which is expected to be released November 2nd. On the other hand, if they miss, the stock may go lower. Well, thanks for that. If you knew anything about anything, you would kind of assume that. I just wanted to put that in there. But it definitely is, whatever happens with the earnings report could definitely be interesting. So now I want to talk about some risks with AbbVie and the Humira drug. Now, of course, earnings is a risk. It could drop the stock even lower. I mean, a lot of companies out there haven't really been hitting earnings recently. I mean, they have, but their forecasts are a little eh. Another risk would be systematic risk with the overall market. The market hasn't been doing very hot whatsoever. Stocks are down. A lot of people see that as a possible buying opportunity. Their stocks could be on sale. And if Trump opens his mouth again, whether we like him or not, if he opens his mouth, stocks are going to go lower. That's just how it's been for like the past month now. So that is another risk. Another risk in not only this company, but a lot of pharmacy companies or drug manufacturers, healthcare. I noticed a lot of these companies have large debt levels, unfortunately. And a lot of people are, well, we all know that interest rates are going up. So with higher interest rates, that means that debt is going to be more expensive. So that could be another risk to the company as well. Now, a huge risk, which is another reason why the stock is down at this point, because there's been recent competition for the Humira drug. This is over in Europe. This is from the company Amgen, yeah, that one. And their drug is called Amgenvida, and I don't know, Amgenvida or whatever. But it is another drug relating to Humira that does similarly. It could be the price of their drug could be less, which is even more competition to Humira. Now, that is in Europe. Let me reiterate that. Humira drug brought in $18 billion. Was it $4 billion? $4 billion of that was from Europe. That's around 22% of that. So, technically in the US, the Humira drug still is unchallenged until around like 2023. So in my opinion, that is a risk in the European market. However, it is still the top selling drug in America, and I feel like with that growth in America, it might even offset the losses over in Europe. So overall, it is a problem, but I don't think it's like detrimental. Alright guys, so let's get happy and look at the pros of AbbVie. So looking at this chart again, it is down, which does make it more attractive. Could be a sale, an attractive buying opportunity, which a lot of people love, around the $80 level. Their dividend of 4.7%, which is nice and juicy. We saw before that the payout ratio is low, so it is safe. And I don't like to only base things off of analyst expectations, but they are expecting them to be around $100 stock. So it is definitely lower compared to other expectations from analysts. Looking into the growth of the AbbVie stock, we could see their revenue for the past few years, back from 2014, and they have been increasing very nicely, even their gross profit. And moving on to their income, they had a nice jump from 14 to 15. In 17, there was a small drop, but overall they are up. Looking into their assets side, they do have some cash, around $9 billion. The total current assets, 21, and total assets around $70 billion. Looking at their liabilities, however, we could see those debt levels at high. Their short-term debt, $37 billion. Long-term debt, $30 billion. Their current liability 16, and total liabilities of around $65 billion. So you could see their total assets of 70 compared to their liabilities of 65. I would like a bigger gap between the assets and liabilities. However, it is still decent. It's not like a horrendous balance sheet. I would just like it a little better though. A little bit more cushion. And a little bit more numbers and statistics for them. We could see their trailing PE of around 20 and their forward PE at a 9. So people that love looking at PEs, that is a ridiculously low PE, or forward PE, I mean. So it is definitely been getting hit. We could see at these valuations their PEG ratio under 1. So a lot of these, you could even see 52-week change, negative 10%. So no doubt in anyone's mind that it is low and possibly undervalued at this point. Now, something else to consider as well, because it is a drug, could you consider it recession proof, because yeah, anything could happen in the economy. People could lose jobs, you know, whatever. But if you need medication or a drug, no matter what happens, you kind of always need that. So you could kind of almost, I don't want to say guarantee, nothing's guaranteed, but it's almost a little bit recession proof because people are always going to need that drug. It is also pretty well protected. It also has 100 legal patents, so that's definitely protection with their top selling drug of Humira, which is definitely needed in case people need to come in that space to form more competition. And the rest are things that we've talked about. Their dividend is like awesome. I love a huge dividend like that, 4.7%. Their low price entry, it's around $80, along with their low PE, which is very attractive. So just all these different things just kept hitting the stock. Increased competition, that lawsuit, basically the overall market has been down. So it's just been getting hit constantly, and that's why it's at those lower levels. Now, if you do get into this stock like this, it could also help diversify your portfolio. A lot of people are only involved or largely involved with tech stocks. Now, tech stocks, yeah, they have that growth. However, we all seen in that recent sell-off that tech stocks, yeah, they could go up quick, but they could go down quick. And with newer investors, I feel like they're learning this the hard way. So we need to diversify away from tech. Like, you could still have tech stocks, but in the drug manufacturer and healthcare sector, this is good. Just extra thing to have on the side. Now, that's basically all the research that I have for you guys. For me personally, what I'm going to do, definitely very attractive. With these low levels, this low price, I do want to play with it. It doesn't have much competition for the next few years, which I love. But I think I'm going to be watching out what happens in the next earnings report on November 2nd. On Friday, because a lot of companies have been missing, and that drops it even further. I don't really like to play earnings because anything could happen. Their numbers could be great, but there might be like one little thing that just makes the stock drop. And of course, like, the stock market is very volatile right now. It could go a little bit lower. An additional strategy for you could be maybe buy a little bit now in case the stock does go up during earnings, so you make a profit there. But if you buy now and it goes down, then you could load up even more on your position. So it really depends how you want to play it. Of course, it has that nice dividend, 4.7%. So if it does go down even further, you're still happy with that dividend coming in. So overall, for me, guys, I am liking AbbVie stock with their Humira drug. I am watching it very closely. I might do that second strategy. Like, I would like to load up on it just in case. Like, I do want to get into it because it is at very low levels. So if it goes up during earnings, you make a small profit there. And if it goes down, that's just an opportunity to load up on a little bit more. So let me know what you guys think. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. Do you like this stock? Do you like this company? What do you think of this analysis? Hopefully this guy provided some value to you guys. I was talking that I was going to do some research into this for a couple weeks because I had another video talking about this quickly, but I didn't do too much research, and I have now. So thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see ya in the next one.